striking gravel, and the echo of commands slicing through the cold morning air. Among the trainees, strong men with sharp jaws, bulky shoulders, and eyes filled with stubborn pride, stood a woman half their size, yet with a presence that weighed heavier than all of them combined. Her name was Lieutenant Sarah Hale, a Navy SEAL whose reputation whispered through the ranks long before she stepped into any room. But today, no one was talking about her accomplishments. Today, they were talking about how she didn't belong here. And as she tightened the straps of her training vest, she heard the quiet snickers behind her. She didn't react. She never did. Sarah had learned long ago that silence was not weakness. Silence was focus. Silence was power. Silence was choosing which battles were worth the fight. But sometimes, life chooses the battle for you, whether you want it or not. The drill began like any other. Mud pits, obstacle walls, rope climbs. It was a routine she had completed so many times that her muscles moved without needing thought. But the new recruits around her were impatient, cocky, desperate to prove something, and unfortunately, some believed that proving themselves required tearing others down. Halfway through the course, during a grappling drill meant to simulate hand-to-hand combat in limited visibility, things took an unexpected and dangerous turn. The rules were simple. Control your opponent, practice holds, no strikes, no excessive force. But when Sarah rotated into her next pairing, she saw the look in her opponent's eyes, agitation mixed with a challenge he had been waiting to issue all morning. Petty resentment radiated off him like heat. His name was Briggs, broad-shouldered, towering, and known for believing strength automatically equaled superiority. He had already lost to Sarah in 2 timed drills earlier that week, and nothing bruised a prideful man more than being shown up by someone he underestimated. The whistle blew. Before she could raise her arms into position, Briggs launched himself forward, locking an arm around her neck. It wasn't a standard training move. It wasn't controlled. It wasn't safe. His forearm pressed hard against her throat, dragging her downward. Her vision blurred at the edges. The sand beneath her boots shifted sharply as he forced her to her knees. She tried to tap. 3 quick slaps on his arm, the universal sign to disengage. He didn't let go. Not so tough now, are you? He muttered under his breath so the instructors wouldn't hear. Sarah's lungs burned. Her throat tightened. She felt the world shrinking into a tunnel of sound. A heartbeat, a whistle far away, someone shouting her name. She wasn't afraid of pain. Pain was familiar. Pain was an old friend she had learned to live with during Hell Week, when her body shook so violently from cold that even her memories rattled inside her skull. But this wasn't training pain. This was the kind of danger SEALs were taught never to inflict on another teammate. Her mind flashed to a night years ago in Afghanistan, when a young girl hid behind a crumbling wall, unable to scream for help because fear had robbed her of her voice. Sarah had carried that child across a battlefield, shielding her with her own armor. She remembered what it felt like, the weight of innocence, the fragility of humans, and the purpose she had sworn to uphold, protect, not destroy. That oath pulsed inside her now like a lightning strike. Her fingers curled, her body steadied, and the part of her she spent years training, the disciplined warrior, the protector, awoke with a calmness sharper than rage. Sarah planted her feet, dropped her weight, rotated her hips, and in one swift movement, reversed the choke. Briggs found himself slammed onto his back, the wind knocked clean out of him. She knelt beside him, not in anger, but in controlled precision, and pinned his arm the proper way, ensuring she restricted movement without causing injury. The whistle sliced through the air. Instructors sprinted toward them. Recruits stepped back, eyes widened, not because she had taken Briggs down, but because of the expression on her face. She wasn't furious. She wasn't panicked. She was heartbreakingly calm. Lieutenant Hale, Instructor Gomez barked. Report. She looked at Briggs before she answered. He expected fury. He expected exposure. But she said nothing. Not in defense. Not in accusation. Only the truth. He applied an unsafe chokehold. I disengaged. Briggs stared at her, stunned silent. She could have humiliated him in front of everyone. She could have told them everything he whispered. But she didn't. Her silence wasn't fear. Her silence was mercy. Yet, mercy often unsettles those who thrive in ego. The recruits whispered again, but their tone had changed. It no longer carried ridicule. It carried questions, admiration. Guilt. Training continued, and the sun inched higher. Sarah moved through each station without complaint, though her throat still throbbed with a lingering ache. Gomez approached her during a water break. "You know I saw what happened," he said quietly. "Why didn't you speak up?" She tightened her canteen cap. "Because he already knows he made a mistake. The kind he won't repeat." "You sure?" Sarah nodded. "Everyone learns differently, sir. Some learn through consequences, some through compassion." Gomez stared at her a moment, then shook his head in disbelief. "Hale, you're something else." But the real shift happened during the final drill of the day, a grueling rescue simulation requiring teams of 4 to carry a 180-pound dummy across rugged terrain. Briggs avoided eye contact at first, staying in the back of the group. But the guilt ate at him in a way no punishment ever could. Halfway through the course, his ankle twisted on a jagged rock. He fell with a cry of pain, sending the entire team stumbling. The instructors didn't stop the timer. Injuries were part of training. "Leave me," Briggs groaned. "Finish without me. Go." It would have been easy, faster, expected, but Sarah kneeled beside him, lifting his arm over her shoulders. "No one gets left behind. Not on my team." He shook his head, ashamed. "After what I did, why?" "Because kindness," she said gently, "is a strength too many underestimate." Together, with the other 2 recruits supporting the weight, they carried the dummy and Briggs the rest of the way. Slow, exhausting, but united, they crossed the finish line last, yet it was the only team that earned a nod from the Master Chief. After the drill, when the sun dipped into gold and the training grounds softened under the warm glow of dusk, Briggs approached her with his head lowered. "I don't deserve your forgiveness," he said. "I don't even know why you helped me." Sarah wiped dust from her uniform. "You made a bad choice today. But one mistake doesn't define the kind of SEAL you can become." He swallowed hard. "I misjudged you. You judged my size, not my purpose." Briggs' eyes glistened, and for the first time that day, his voice softened. "You're the strongest person here." Sarah gave a quiet smile. "Strength isn't measured by how hard you hit. It's measured by how deeply you care." Word of what happened traveled farther than she expected. Soon, recruits approached her for guidance, for encouragement, for advice on the drills they once assumed she couldn't master better than them. Not because she proved her dominance, but because she proved her humanity. A week later, during a team-building meeting, the Master Chief told the entire group, what Lieutenant Hale showed wasn't combat skill. It was leadership, and if any of you want to survive out there in the real world, that's what you need most. Briggs looked at her with gratitude, and she nodded. Their silent understanding was stronger than any victory. Months passed, and the training group graduated together. On the final day, as they stood on the deck overlooking the sea, Briggs approached her again. "I want you to know," he said, "what you did that day changed me. You didn't fight back with anger. You fought back with character. I'll remember that for the rest of my life." Sarah placed a supportive hand on his shoulder. "Good. Then take that with you into every mission. One day, your kindness might save someone's life." As the wind carried the distant sound of waves crashing against the ship hull, the entire team stood united, not because they trained together, but because they grew together. And Sarah understood something she had forgotten for a long time: battles aren't always won with force. Sometimes, the most heroic victories are the ones fought with compassion. And as she looked across the horizon, strong, fearless, and calm, she knew that even if the world expected her to stay silent, she would continue speaking the language of courage in the only way that truly mattered, through actions that lifted others, even when they didn't deserve it. Her silence had never been weakness. Her silence had been grace. And in the moment they tried to break her, the Navy SEAL inside her didn't rise to punish. She rose to heal, and that is what made her unforgettable.